Picture this: you're sitting across from someone who knows a devastating secret about your life, something that could destroy everything you hold dear. They're watching you, torn between silence and truth. Do you want them to speak? What if that truth would shatter your world forever? This is the burden carried by one of mythology's most tragic figures, a blind prophet who saw too much, knew too much, and paid the ultimate price for honesty. Today we're diving into the haunting story of Tiresias, the seer who held the power to save or destroy with just a few words. This isn't just another Greek myth. It's a mirror reflecting our own relationship with truth, the secrets we keep, and the price we pay when reality comes crashing down. The story begins long before the tragedy of Oedipus, in a time when gods walked among mortals and divine games had mortal consequences. Tiresias was once an ordinary man, walking through the forests of Mount Cyllene when fate intervened in the most unexpected way. He stumbled upon two serpents mating. Without thinking, he struck them with his staff, separating them. In that instant, the gods transformed him into a woman. For 7 years, Tiresias lived as a woman, experiencing life from an entirely different perspective. He understood the weight of vulnerability, the complexity of feminine existence, the subtle powers and profound challenges that came with womanhood. Then, by chance or divine design, he encountered the same serpents again. This time, when he struck them, he was transformed back into a man. He had become something unprecedented, a person who truly understood both sides of human experience. This unique knowledge would soon make him the most sought after and most feared oracle in all of Greece. But knowledge, especially forbidden knowledge, always comes with a price. Zeus and Hera, the king and queen of the gods, had been locked in one of their eternal arguments. This time, they were debating who experienced greater pleasure in love, men or women. Both were convinced they were right, and neither would back down. Their argument grew so heated that it threatened to tear apart the very fabric of Olympus. They needed someone to settle the matter once and for all. Someone who had lived as both man and woman. Someone who could speak from experience rather than assumption. There was only one person in all of existence who could answer this question: Tiresias. When the gods summoned him, he knew there was no escape. To refuse would mean death. To answer would mean choosing sides between the most powerful beings in the universe. Standing before the divine couple, feeling the weight of their expectations, Tiresias made his choice. Woman experiences greater pleasure, he said simply. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Hera's rage was immediate and terrible. She had been certain that men enjoyed love more than women, and Tiresias had just proven her wrong in front of her husband. Her fury burned like a star-going supernova. If you love truth so much, she screamed, then you will never see lies again. With those words, she struck him blind. Darkness swallowed his world in an instant. The colors of sunset, the faces of loved ones, the simple pleasure of watching clouds drift across the sky, all gone forever. But Zeus, perhaps feeling guilty for putting Tiresias in this impossible position, offered compensation. Since you can no longer see the present, Zeus declared, you will see the future. He granted Tiresias the gift of prophecy. It was meant to be a blessing, but like all divine gifts, it came with a terrible curse. Tiresias would see the future clearly. Every tragedy, every disaster, every moment of suffering that awaited humanity. He would know when people were walking toward their doom. He would see the consequences of their choices before they made them. And most cruelly of all, he would rarely be believed when he tried to warn them. Years passed, and Tiresias became known throughout Greece as the most accurate prophet who ever lived. Kings and peasants alike sought his counsel, but they rarely liked what they heard. Truth, he learned, was not something people actually wanted. They wanted comfort, reassurance, hope. They wanted to be told that their plans would succeed and their enemies would fail. They wanted prophecy that confirmed their desires, not prophecy that revealed their fate. But Tiresias could only speak what he saw, and what he saw was rarely comforting. He foresaw the fall of Troy, the tragedies of great houses, the rise and fall of kingdoms. He watched the future unfold like a scroll written in blood and tears. The weight of this knowledge was crushing. Imagine knowing that the young man asking about his future will die in battle next spring. Imagine seeing that the pregnant woman seeking a blessing for her child will lose that baby before winter. Imagine watching people make choices that you know will destroy them, and being powerless to change their minds. This was Tiresias' daily reality. Then came the day that would define his legacy forever. A plague had descended upon Thebes like a living nightmare. Crops withered in the fields. Children died in their mothers' arms, and the streets filled with the moans of the dying. The city was being devoured from within, and no one knew why. Oedipus, the king who had saved Thebes from the Sphinx, was desperate. He had tried everything: prayers, sacrifices, consulting every oracle in the land. Nothing worked. The plague continued to spread, and his people were losing hope. In desperation, he sent for Tiresias. When the old prophet arrived at the palace, Oedipus was waiting in the throne room. The king was still young, still proud, still convinced that his intelligence could solve any problem. After all, he had defeated the Sphinx when no one else could. Surely he could defeat this plague too. Great Seer, Oedipus said, his voice carrying the weight of command. You must help us. The gods have sent this plague for a reason. Tell me what we have done wrong so I can fix it. Tiresias stood silent for a long moment, his blind eyes fixed on something only he could see. In his mind, the truth unfolded like a flower blooming in reverse, revealing its poisonous center. He saw the baby abandoned on the mountainside, the prophecy that terrified a king and queen. He saw the crossroads where a young man killed an older traveler in a fit of rage. He saw the wedding chamber where a man unknowingly married his mother. He saw the children born of that unholy union, and he saw what would happen when the truth finally came to light. The king would tear out his own eyes, the queen would hang herself with her own belt, the children would be cast out, cursed to wander the earth. The royal house would fall, and Thebes would be left without leadership. All of this flashed through his mind in an instant, and Tiresias felt the familiar weight of terrible knowledge. My lord, he said carefully, some truths are too dangerous to speak. Let me return to my home. Find another way to end the plague. But Oedipus was not a man who accepted no for an answer. The people are dying. If you know something that can save them, you must tell me. I command you to speak, he said, his voice growing harder. Tiresias shook his head slowly. Truth is not always salvation, my king. Sometimes silence is the greater mercy. This only made Oedipus angrier. Here was his kingdom falling apart, his people suffering, and the one person who might have answers was refusing to help. Are you a coward? Oedipus demanded. Are you so afraid of me that you would let innocent people die rather than risk my displeasure? The accusation stung, but Tiresias held his ground. I am not afraid of you, Oedipus. I am afraid for you. Then speak. What could be so terrible that you would rather watch Thebes burn than tell me? For a moment, Tiresias wavered. Perhaps if he spoke in riddles, if he hinted at the truth without stating it directly, Oedipus might understand and take action without fully realizing the horror of his situation. The killer you seek, Tiresias said slowly, is closer than you think. Until justice is served, the plague will continue. What killer? Oedipus asked. The gods are punishing Thebes because the murderer of the previous king walks free. Oedipus leaned forward, interested now. Tell me more. Who killed King Laius? Tiresias closed his eyes, feeling the weight of destiny pressing down on him. Tell me his name and I will have him executed immediately. The killer lives in your own house, he said. A servant? A guard? It is not a servant. Then who? The question hung in the air like a blade waiting to fall. Tiresias knew that once he spoke, there would be no taking back the words. The truth would spread like wildfire, consuming everything in its path. But Oedipus was growing impatient, and the king's anger was beginning to override his judgment. If you will not tell me willingly, Oedipus said, then I will assume you are protecting the killer. Perhaps you were involved in the murder yourself. This was too much for Tiresias to bear. You murdered your own father and married your own mother. You are the pollution that has brought this plague upon Thebes. To be accused of murder when he was trying to prevent a greater tragedy was the final insult. You want the truth, he said, his voice rising. You demand it. Then hear it, Oedipus. You are the killer. The words exploded into the throne room like lightning. I left them to avoid the prophecy that said I would kill my father and marry my mother. The man you killed at the crossroads was Laius, your true father. Jocasta, your wife, is your mother. Your children are your brothers and sisters. For a moment, there was complete silence. Oedipus stared at the old prophet, his face cycling through disbelief, anger, and the first hint of dawning horror. You're lying, he said finally. I have never told a lie in my life, Tiresias replied. That is my curse. This is impossible. My father is King Polybus of Corinth. My mother is Queen Merope. And in running from that fate, you went straight into it. But you insisted, and now you know. Each word was like a physical blow, driving Oedipus backward. No, he whispered. No, this cannot be true. But even as he denied it, pieces of the puzzle began falling into place. The aggressive older man at the crossroads who had tried to force him off the road. The way Jocasta sometimes looked at him with an expression he couldn't identify. The questions about his past that she seemed reluctant to answer. How you choose to live with it is up to you. The scars on his feet from when he was abandoned as a baby. You're lying, he said again, but his voice lacked conviction. I told you that truth was dangerous, Tiresias said sadly. I begged you to let me remain silent. Oedipus stood there, swaying slightly, as the full weight of revelation crashed over him. Everything he had built, everything he had achieved, everything he believed about himself was crumbling. The crown on his head felt like it was made of lead. The wedding ring on his finger burned like a brand. The children he had fathered with his own mother were abominations in the eyes of gods and men. What do I do? He asked, his voice breaking. That, Tiresias said, is no longer my burden to bear. I have spoken the truth you demanded. With that, the old prophet turned and walked away, leaving Oedipus alone with the knowledge that would destroy him. True to Tiresias's vision, the truth did not set anyone free. When Jocasta learned what had happened, she hanged herself in her bedchamber. Oedipus, finding her body, took the golden brooches from her dress and drove them into his own eyes. If I must live with this knowledge, he said, then I will not see the world that contains it. He wandered out of Thebes, blind and broken, guided only by his daughter Antigone. The plague ended, but the price was higher than anyone could have imagined. Tiresias returned to his chambers that night, feeling older than his many years. He had done what was asked of him, but the victory felt hollow. He thought about the moment when Zeus had granted him the gift of prophecy. The god had meant it as compensation for his blindness, but Tiresias now understood it was the cruelest punishment of all. To see the future clearly and be powerless to change it. To know that truth would destroy the very people who demanded it. To be forever caught between the silence that might save and the honesty that would damn. This is the burden of the oracle, and it extends far beyond ancient Greece. In our modern world, we face similar dilemmas every day. The friend who asks if their partner is cheating when you know the answer will devastate them. The family member who wants to know their medical test results when you know they're terminal. The colleague who asks for honest feedback when you know it will crush their confidence. We all carry pieces of Tiresias within us, holding truths that could change everything. The question is not whether we should always tell the truth. The question is whether we have the wisdom to know when truth serves and when it destroys. Tiresias knew that some knowledge is too dangerous to share. He tried to protect Oedipus from the truth, not out of cowardice, but out of compassion. He understood that there are some realities too terrible for the human mind to bear. But he also understood that truth, once demanded, cannot be denied. There's a reason why Tiresias appears in so many Greek tragedies. He represents the moment when ignorance ends and harsh reality begins. He is the voice that says what everyone knows, but no one wants to hear. He is the mirror that reflects not who we want to be, but who we actually are. And perhaps most importantly, he reminds us that wisdom is not just about knowing truth. It's about knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. The story of Tiresias teaches us that truth is not inherently good or evil. It simply is. What matters is how we choose to wield it. Do we use it as a weapon to hurt others? Do we hide it to protect ourselves? Or do we find the courage to speak it when it serves the greater good, even knowing the cost? Have you ever wished someone had remained silent rather than tell you a painful truth? Share your thoughts in the comments below. These are the questions that make Tiresias' story timeless. In our age of information, when secrets are harder to keep and truth spreads faster than ever, we need the wisdom of Tiresias more than ever. We need to understand that knowledge comes with responsibility, but a responsibility to be carried with wisdom, compassion, and an understanding of the weight it bears. That truth, once spoken, cannot be unspoken, and that sometimes the most loving thing we can do is to remain silent. The next time you're faced with a difficult truth, remember Tiresias. Remember the weight he carried, the choices he made, and the price he paid. Ask yourself not just whether something is true, but whether it needs to be said. Consider not just the immediate consequences, but the long-term effects. And remember that wisdom lies not in knowing everything, but in knowing when to speak and when to hold your tongue. What do you think? Have you ever been in a situation where you had to choose between truth and kindness? If this story resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into mythology and the timeless lessons it teaches us. And remember, in a world full of noise, sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is listen to the silence. The old prophet understood that truth is not a gift to be given lightly.